इब्तिदा है रब्बे जलील के बाबरकत नाम से जो दिलों के भेद बेहतर जानता है. Good morning, good evening, adab, namaste, sat shri akal, vanakkam. Greetings and welcome to the first Sapan Fundraiser. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Arvind Chamak, your host for today's program. On behalf of Sapan, the Southasia Peace Action Network, I'm a poet, peace builder, actor, entrepreneur based in Amritsar, and fortunate to have got the multiple visa to visit Pakistan several times. Many others are not that lucky. Well, Saban was launched in March 2021 by the most noble and loving soul, our very own Bina Server, as a coalition of the intergenerational, cross-border, cross-regional, and cross-diasporic individuals and organizations. We hold We regularly hold public discussions on the last Sundays of the most of the months. All this work is carried out by the team of dedicated, courageous, and committed volunteers. We have an exciting discussion today. It's none other than Sarmad Khoosat, one of the South Asia's best filmmakers. He's also known for the multiple award winning and thought provoking films like Manto, which produced 2015, in which he played the lead role of the legendary writer who was born and raised in Amritsar, Saadat Hassan Manto. His path breaking film Zindagi Tamasha 2019, and followed by the film which is very close to my heart, Kamli, and then Joyland, both released in 2022. He's also directed the super hit TV dramas like Humsafar and Shehr-e-Zaat. Here is a little taste of his work compiled by a young volunteer, Duaiman, from Lahore. Let's see what Sarmad has catered the world with his talent.
अस्सलामुअलैकुम, मैं हूं सरमद खूसट.
All for the best director for Humsafar, Sarmad Khoosat for Humsafar.
मंटो जिंदाबाद.
लोग कहते हैं वो उर्दू का बड़ा अदीब है,
मगर उर्दू उसे अब भी नहीं आती.
कौन ने सारे
सब यार को लिए साढ़े करके लोग
बकवास ना कर.
कोई शर्मिंदगी, कोई अफसोस नहीं है.
मेरी वीडियो तू बनाई सी.
हाँ,
जेड़े मौलवी करते ने ओ
मैं तेरे पास पड़ जाऊंगा.
Wow. Excellent, Sarmad. Excellent. And we are blessed to have you. We are blessed to have you, and we are honored. We are honored. Sarmad will be in conversation with the panel of the distinguished journalists led by Mandana Nair, who is a journalist and peace activist from Delhi. Joining her from Colombo is Melinda Seneviratne, former editor-in-chief of the Nation newspaper and award-winning poet. And of course, our very dear Lubna Gerard, journalist and gender equality activist from Karachi. Friends, I'm reminding, this is Sapan is a body for the peace-loving people. We are bridging peace. We are trying to bridge, the soft areas for the South Asia. And I would remind that all those watching and listening that we, Sapan, have been carrying out all the work by the purely voluntary basis. If you like what we do and support our work, please consider contributing on a regular basis. You can make tax-free donations that the Sapan will receive via a physical sponsor. The barcode is already there. You can use that barcode on your right screen and donate. If you donate more than 50, you will be able to receive the exclusive access to watch Sarmad's award-winning film Zindagi Tamasha through an online link, which will be available for a very short period. And if you donate more than $100, that'll give you a further access to not only to watch Zindagi Tamasha, but to have an exclusive Zoom chat with Sarmad the next Sunday, same time. I would request everyone to, donate freely for this Sapan, for this cause. And I'm the first one to donate today, $100 for this. I'm delighted to welcome one of the South Asia filmmakers and Sarmad Khoosat to our show today. We are grateful to him for graciously taking out the time from his very busy schedule to join us for this fundraiser program. Blessed and love you. And over to Mandira. Please carry out this. I'm already overwhelmed.
Well, it is an overwhelming thing. Good evening, and welcome to Sapan's first fundraiser. It's unbelievable that Sapan was about 2 years old now. I've personally seen how it's grown to be a movement. I've seen the kind of volunteering that this intergenerational program really does, and we're really hoping that you will support us and donate. This is particularly exciting because I've been desperate to watch Joyland, and I actually went to watch it on a late night show there was only one show in Delhi. They advertised it like about for about half a day before it actually went live. And it was one of the most thrilling experiences I've had for a very, very long time, because it was a rainy day actually in Delhi. It was unseasonal rain, but Lahore and Delhi are now witnessing unseasonal rain in some ways. And there was a long queue of people who were desperate for that one pass. And the moment the credits rolled, Sarmad, you cannot imagine. It was like it was a Shah Rukh Khan film. Okay, people whistled, people clapped. It was one of the most touching and overwhelming experiences that I've had for a very long time. It really brought me hope. And it really demonstrates how, how borders are really not, how, films and creativity can actually soften borders. And I wanted to ask you in some ways that we're really witnessing this moment of this South Asian moment, which has really been led by Pakistan soft power. Okay, whether you see the Miss Marvel movie, whether you see Joyland itself, which had an Indian producer itself. So I wanted to ask you, what do you see even if you look at what Amitabh Ghosh does with Ali Sethi, Jungle Nama, which it's on every platform in India. It's downloaded. So I wanted to ask you really about this moment that we're really seeing, powered by Pakistani soft power, and whether it's Coke Studio, and how do you see this?
First of all, really, really honored, and I'm also very overwhelmed to be here. Bina I've known for a very, very long time, since Aman Ki Asha, and I know that the ethos and the essence of this initiative is just peace. And I think the more casually or liberally we use such important words in everyday language, they tend to lose what they actually mean or can mean. So peace, I feel, is just the essence of a good life. And peace, which it could be just personal, it could be national, it could be between countries, or it could be just, just globally. Just the sense of peace is just so quintessential to human existence. Now, coming to how I look at the whole cultural thing happening, I'd say, I mean, one would like to believe that art did not always scavenge and, devour at, pathos and turbulence and, stifling politics and, I mean, again, casually bunging it in, but things as heinous as terrorism. And, so, I mean, I think our atmosphere has been so stifled over the last couple of decades that I think um, it, it was there, I'd say. The exchange even was there. It was very difficult to block the exchange, but then whatever politics, whatever, as we call it, the nakabandis, the bandishein, and all of those happened. And then, so we did sort of, a big damage to the whole idea of not just the exchange, but what could be done within, the realm of arts in Pakistan, And arts have always been, a very easy target for all sorts of political point scoring. So I think it was always brimming, and thanks to the advent and this kind of this viral spread of social media and digital distribution, which has inevitably just broken any possibility of containing things within borders and brackets. So I think Pakistan was always offering what it could. I mean, the size differential would always be there, Definitely, if we compare it to India, for example, now India is definitely bigger in size and bigger in outreach, and all sorts of industries, be it music or film or television or theater. Of course, there's, but what we cannot, and what I think has been the most unnatural sort of approach was to somehow make us believe that our roots or the root of that whole tradition is not common. It is common. You cannot take the season, the color, the folklore, the music, the sounds, the people from the region. You cannot. So technically speaking, I think it would have been great sort of symbiosis. It would have been great co-growing up, a jointly nourished environment where we could have reached out to a larger audience. I mean, of course, India has been like on the map in terms of being at international film fests or at the academy or at global platforms regarding music and arts. So Pakistan did take its time, and one would also like to accept that that the turbulence that we have faced, I think it's still quite something that the last few years do seem like that, finally the tipping point is here, like from Sharmeen winning, 2 Oscars in a row, to I mean, beginning with Malala also, and then the Emmys coming into the country, and then the grand prize of Khan coming to Pakistan, and then Ali Sethi performing at Coachella. Like I'm just saying. So maybe it's also where I think somehow, I mean, as an artist, I sometimes feel that distributing my art or making it accessible to the world somehow should not be my responsibility. There should be other people taking care of it. So I think those channels were, of course, either not developed or they were deliberately blocked. And a part of it, of course, how that idiom goes in Urdu, the well and the frog thing, the kuein ka mendak. So, the mendak also becomes very happy and satiated. And, so I think some of the mendak phenomena was also happening, that, we were just doing our thing. When Humsafar happened in 2011, and suddenly people are waking up to, oh, Pakistani drama is on the map. Pakistani drama has a tradition which goes all the way back to 1964.
But the thing is that if you look at it, Indians have been watching. We've been watching Dhoop Kinare on a smuggled VCR this thing for a very long time. Humsafar is still a very big hit in India. In the sense, even though it's late, there is people watch it on YouTube. So this whole aspect of this India-Pakistan, waking up to the Pakistani dramas, I think in some ways we're reflecting each other. The Pakistani industry sort of looking at India and saying, doing sort of an Ekta Kapoor sort of drama, while we're looking across and saying, oh my God, this is what this is what we want. We want, we want a Humsafar with a Fawad Khan type of thing. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. So I think it's heartwarming. Honestly, it does feel like the tree is bearing the right kind of ripe fruit, but it also comes with questions and doubts that where do we take it from here? Because anything needs continuity. It needs some sense of taking the tradition or whatever you have achieved forward. So I hope. I mean. We do have, like, I think a very like a fertile nation in terms of arts and other disciplines, which our artists now getting on the map, I think is very heartwarming. It's very heartwarming.
No, it is wonderful. I think it's also, there is a certain collaboration that is happening even outside, which is wonderful. I just also wanted to ask you, you said fertile ground, and my question really is about this fertile ground. If you look at Joyland, it was a film that came out of Pakistan, which was, I mean, it is possibly one of the most sensitively portrayed films on the trans woman's experience. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It's a film that still gives you goosebumps. And then you have Churels, which is this very edgy, angry feminist thing. But these are just isms. But it's really an entertaining show. I'm sort of looking at it and saying, it's got all this very radical feminism, and it can go so wrong. But otherwise, it's a really entertaining show about women who get back on men. I mean, it's all at its various layers. And I really wanted to ask you, how do you think that Pakistan, in some ways, if you look at Joyland, it is a film that would have been radical across South Asia. It would have been, but it comes out of Pakistan where 377 still exists. You've got where, but it's the official nomination ban, but still comes, and then you have something like Churel. So how do you think that Pakistan is sort of in some ways leading this aspect of stuff that is, in a way, still being a conservative country, still talking about things which are radical and sort of stretching freedom of expression in a way that all of South Asia really wants to. I mean, I looked at Churels and I said, oh my God, why didn't it come out of India?
It does come with a big toll that you have to pay, to be honest. I, for one, firmly believe that, as much as one would like to believe that, there would be universality to art, or the voice of an artist needs to be understood as universally as it can. But no, it has a primary audience, I feel. And that primary audience, if that misses it, or if that is deprived of it, it is a big loss, almost tragic. I mean, with Churels, for example, it ended up, just getting that streaming platform blocked in Pakistan. Nobody from Pakistan can pay through their Pakistani banking cards to sign up for that app. With Joyland, for example, now we have not been able to show it in the biggest province. I mean, in terms of cinema business, that is Punjab, and it's still banned in Punjab. So, although, I mean, that kind of noise, one would like to believe, is creating conversations. That kind of noise, of course, helps in so many other ways, but just that idea that, this is art which is not essentially emanating from a sensational point of view, or at the core of it, it is not, we need to say really radical things. It's, I feel, the individuality, the uniqueness of these artistic voices is what is exciting, say, people in India, people globally, and people here too, So now, once that kind of expression gets stifled or suffocated, I think it's dangerous also. And I would say it has not been easy, to be honest, as much as one would like to feel proud of the fact that, now we have some kind of avenues where, say, local censors and local, controls will not be applicable. But then there are other kinds of damages and fears that come into play. With Zindagi Tamasha, for example, we've not been able to release it in Pakistan since 2019, and it's 2023. And I feel sure, I mean, we won at big festivals, we shared it globally on in restricted whatever territories, but I losing my primary audience who understand that metaphor like nobody else can, the issue or the set of issues or the ideas that are discussed, I feel it's almost like a tragic loss if they didn't have access to it. And honestly, you know, a part of me is like, sure, the accolades, the recognition, the awards, they do matter. But at the end of the day, I would like to believe that if I'm not adhering to a formula, so I'm definitely not going for the buck, essentially, you know. Otherwise, I would want to make a Bajrangi Bhaijaan or like a Dawn, you know. And there's, again, it's a different genre of cinema. But if this genre of cinema gets so much, you know, trouble, and if it is just thrown under the bus like that, you know, then I find it to be very tragic. And a film which was, you know, not just made, I would say every aspect of it was curated very carefully and responsibly, keeping the whole, you know, the emotional and the political sensitivities of the audiences. But even then, when you get into trouble, then one is really pushed into a corner where you are lost and you're like, I don't know then what to do, you know. And at best, you can only grieve it. So it's tricky. I'm just saying that this kind of, you know, celebration and the, you know, the galore of this all, I mean, there is a lot of backstage stuff that is scary also, you know, without going into the details. And of course, I mean in India, I mean, the joke here was when they banned Zindagi Tamasha. So some of my friends were like, यार पाकिस्तानी कब बैन करते हैं, वो तो इंडियंस करते हैं बैन अपनी फिल्में, हमने तो कभी सुना नहीं था यहाँ फिल्में बैन होती हैं, you know. So the idea of banning, for example, was just not a prevalent idea. Back in the day, apparently a Jameel Delvi film got banned, or another film by Riaz Shahid Saab got banned, like, you know, 40 years ago. So the banning thing was not like, say, in fashion, as much as, you know, in India, we do come across some news that, you know, every year at least a film or two would get under fire by either, you know, religious, you know, extremists or just, you know, political, whatever. So that too was a bit sad that, you know, we thought that, you know, our cinema, which is just waking up, because we had a flourishing cinema industry, but then it died completely. And there was like a complete death and lull for at least a decade and a half. And now with, you know, this, so to say, the new wave where we are producing just a handful of films every year. And out of those two films that supposedly can at least define or carve, like, say, how our films can actually look like, and they are made on templates, or they will make templates which would be easy to follow by younger filmmakers also, you know. These are not studio based big magnum opus like films, you know. So when films like these do not get the rightful share of the audience here at home, I feel it's a big failure. Not our failure maybe, but a collective failure of, you know, whoever is a part of the big board.
So I think now we have somebody from Colombo. Melinda is going to go and ask.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, Melinda, screen is frozen, I think.
I know. I think it is.
Yes.
So can I request Lubna, who's obviously watched your films and is singing, who's from Pakistan, to go ahead, please?
Yes, actually, I didn't get to watch most of his films. Like he said, Joyland was packed. The cinemas were packed, and it was so difficult going there. And all my family watched it, and I was away from Pakistan, but I really wanted to watch it. And that's one of my questions to Sarmad, because the mainstream media is facing so much problem, and as the cinema, as the vibrant cinema died down, and now if you have brought it back with your Joyland and all these movies. You did comic roles before, and you did very good roles in the beginning. And I was a big fan of yours. And then you started doing very, like I loved to watch Bathing, and I really hated you. Like, what is wrong with this guy? So you're a very good actor as well. Doing such, why didn't you just stick to the comic and light roles? And why do you want to? We know the situation in Pakistan, because when Joyride came out, we were talking to a lot of transgender. The community, and they were facing a lot of backlash first because of the film, and then there's a lot of. So Why don't you just stick to comedy to be safe? Not that I'm asking you because you're creating great content. Um, so why don't I mean the cinema in Pakistan has become quite mellowed down, and we're not getting a lot of good films, and good films are not allowed to come on a screen as we have seen. So
Yeah.
you can make more money with drama, can't you? So that's my
Uh,
question. Why do you want to
I
put
will.
your hands in the
I
beer?
will. I will very, as they say, दो हाथ बांध के तो ग्रैंड मास्टर को कोट करूंगा मंटो साहब को, as he says मेरे अंदर आग है आग. So I don't know, I think there is some fire that I would like to believe is there. I don't know, I think I've tried my hands at sort of different genres, different formats. To be honest, I like in the beginning of my career, it came from a point that I just wanted to try. I wasn't trained. I had a degree in psychology. I didn't have a
Great
degree formal.
comedy.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I enjoyed comedy a lot, but I think I was very young, and I would always feel very bad, almost that as legendary as my father is as an actor, but I think he never got a his due share in terms of the variety of roles that could have been offered to him. Everybody wants to box him as in the the comic guy, the funny man. And that started happening to me. I mean, be it a TV commercial where they'll ask me to sell a cola or a toothpaste, they would want me with the funny, lost guy. And then, so I did that for 3-4 years. It was definitely getting me a lot of money also. But then a part of me was like, no, I do not want to be just an actor. I still felt, there was more room to explore what I want to do if I stay behind the camera, that is, directing and writing. And when I sat down to write, I think I felt very burnt out in terms of comedy. I had written like 3 years of constant like situational comedy series, like one after the other for TV, and I was done. So I love comedy, and I think comedy is such a difficult genre. It is like such a technical genre also, that it requires some skill and finesse and practice. So then, like I started with TV. I kept at TV because there was no cinema, and then deep inside, I was like, okay, one day, half a film, one scene which can look like a scene out of a Satyajit Ray film, so that kind of aspiration in the head, and you're like, one day I will make cinema. And then whenever that opportunity comes, and that opportunity came with a film like Manto, and then with Manto, of course, you cannot. I could not channel my my comic whatever little
But we do
skill
a
I
lot
have.
of comedy in Pakistan too, so please do write something for us.
I would love to. I would love to. And I think it is, again, I think there is a serious dearth of satirists, humorists, and I think with the last of the legions were Anwar Saab and Farooq Kaisar Saab, Shoaib Hashmi Saab, and perhaps Yunus Butt followed to some degree. But then people are not writing comedy, and only because I feel now either people have started going towards very bite-sized, small skit-like content for social media, and nobody wants to do like a proper comedy. Or if they do comedy, it's really like just farcical situations for cinema, which are like a boys' night out type parties, and those kind of settings and things. So yeah, but absolutely, I think humor and satire has this power. They have that power that very few other. Actually, I heard it in an interview that somewhere, I don't know if it was Shah Rukh Khan saying that, that how when a comedian, like how a Govinda and a Shah Rukh Khan, when it is about interacting with a live crowd, the impact, the warmth, the love, the cheering is very different. So I think with comedy, one can actually create a lot of interesting stuff, but then you need skilled people, and people with
Sarmad,
passion.
this is from Malinda
Hi, Malinda.
from Colombo. A lot of this stuff has been about India and Pakistan, but we are such a diverse region, even within our own countries, and the issues that you've been talking about, they get played out in so many different ways within even a single community. So what I was interested is, now your work dwells considerably on what could be called the condition of minoritization, becoming a minority.
Right,
You deal
right.
with this theme, you have portrayed those who experience this condition, and you even inhabit, one could argue, this space in real life with this banning and things like that. We all do in one way or the other. But I would like you to speak to what it is like at these intersections of minoritization.
Malinda, a very potent question. I'd like to assume that I can answer it sufficiently. But again, I feel that, these kind of, say, lines which can only be drawn upon analysis of what one produces, right? I don't know, like, I for one definitely do not sit down and say, oh, I have these boxes to check now, and this is what my film is going to be themed around. The creative process has its own organicity. Sometimes even, like, you'll work on an idea for a year and it suddenly stops breathing, and you have to just let go of it or tuck it away in a drawer, or just, hide that file on your computer and not. So what I'm trying to get at is that with these narratives, I don't know that, for example, even in Joyland, I don't think that Sam was ever thinking that, oh, I am going to essentially talk about what trans people go through. No, it is one of the topics. It is one of the plots. It's an ensemble film. But it is about his empathy and connection with, say, a character. And that's what gives birth to that story. So it is not essentially that it's coming from a place of awareness of, oh, we are dealing with minorityness. I think that is a very, just upon analysis that one can say. Now, with Zindagi Tamasha, for example, my protagonist is a bearded guy. And please forgive me if I'm going to sort of spell it out so that at least everybody here knows. So it's about a Naat Khwa. Now, Naat Khwa is a very specific kind of devotional recitation. And these are praise poems written for the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And it is like a beautiful art form, a beautiful form of poetry, right? And he does that as a hobby. He's a property agent. But just because he had a beard, just looking at the trailer, everybody was like, oh, he is attacking religion, he's attacking the beard, he's attacking the clerics, he's attacking da-da-da-da-da. But imagine something as mainstream as religion was used to create a minorityness. How is that even? I mean, that doesn't make sense. I thought I'd picked a bearded guy only because if you look at all the content globally and even say Bollywood and our own cinema and television, we were just showing bearded guys as terrorists and Taliban and whatnot. I was like, no, this is a very heartfelt, empathetic story about a guy who is, in his late 50s and is a Naat Khwa. And whatever happens, I mean, it's a slice of life kind of a plot. But even with that film, what I'm trying to get at is that I did not make that film thinking that, oh, this would be categorized as a film talking about the minorityness of any community or any people. I thought I picked a very mainstream character. So even that, I feel, is such a gray area where just tagging something controversial is just a tool to create more distance, fear, and that is, I think, just a political device. And I would say that the more you, for example, like, I'll be honest, I could be completely wrong technically and politically. I'm completely against the idea of, say, labeling films, oh, this film is an LGBTQ film, or this film is just a film which is talking about women issues. I think that is also limiting for art. Otherwise, I mean, it's not an essay, it's not an academic paper that needs to have, like, a heading and a subheader. It's a film, and anybody can draw any meaning out of it. Like, a lot of people who watch Joyland do not think of it as a film which is about Alina, the Biba character. They think it's a Mumtaz film. And I would also like to believe it's Heather's film. Yes, there is a character, but that character is a part of that ensemble, and hence that character on paper and in treatment is not in a margin. So that whole idea of making a margin for characters, I feel, is not applicable to storytelling, to fiction, to novels, to cinema. And
yeah, I like the idea that you're telling a story. Too often we try to tell politics, or we try to tell an ideology, and then the story is lost, and it's like I get it, and I think your response is brilliant. Thank you.
And Malinda, also, I'd like to believe that, like, say, for example, my politics and my ideology would inevitably seep into what I'm telling, as a storyteller, or the lack of it, Like, so I do feel that there is now started feeling that, there is a bit of an unnecessary burden on artists to be correct, to not talk about issues, or to talk about them in a way that, I mean, for example, I don't think that, art needs to be always about leaving a message. No, it could just pose a question. It could just create that nice marinade where, you put something and people would come out just, soaked in that and just thinking about something. So I also feel that, sometimes this whole dissection, and not like, say, people as able as all of you, but, generally how people would now start dissecting cinema and literature, and they want it to fit into pieces and boxes where, they'd say, oh, that character didn't need to behave like that. That is such a non-feminist thing to do. Of course, I mean, a character can have flaws. It could be rough around the edges. It's a story at the end of the day. So art doesn't, it doesn't need to be circumscribed in such linear lines, It needs to sort of, sometimes just pose questions and not be too aware. I think, I mean, the more an artist is aware of his or her own craft is also such a, disadvantage, You just need to let it be and, let it breathe and let it happen.
I think everybody would love to see the film. Please donate. There is a barcode right there. We're hoping that this will keep Sapan going through. And of course, you get to see this film, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and on that note, I'd just like to add that, Zindagi Tamasha has a big piece of my heart, only because it became that sore that nobody got to watch it, and we just had to be totally like closed doors about it. So anytime there's an opportunity where people can get to watch it, I think it's just very affirming. So yeah, I would love for all of you to just watch this film and be a part of the fundraiser at Sapan also. And yes, I'll be there for an exclusive Q&A if you donate more than $100.
Sarmad, a quick question. Now, South Asia as a region has to deal with complex issues of identity, which are embedded in which are contending narratives, but of unequal assertive power. Some get said, some don't get said. How can film and indeed art in general interrupt, engage, and expand the space for civilized discourse on the politics of identity?
I'd like to believe, now, for example, it's a strange shift. Earlier, we would think that, Pakistani cinema in particular, and I think it is almost applicable to Bollywood too. Forgive my ignorance, but I'm not aware of too much of Sri Lankan cinema, but say I've seen some of the Bangladeshi stuff. So I feel that, the mainstream was always blamed to be, oh, it's 2D, it is very superficial, it follows the formula, and hence a big chunk of the audience just disowned it. They didn't want to engage with it. They would know a song or two from the film, but, very few people would have actually gone and watched all those films, And then I think with this whole multiplex, cineplex culture, it's a very different socioeconomic class that's now, can afford to go there. And like, in a weird way, of course, that class is, one would like to assume, has, if not educated entirely, but they've gone to school and universities too, considering that milieu of the society is designed like that, So if the film reaches them, I do feel that conversation does begin, but it stays very like, again, it's very restricted. It is not large scale enough. Now, with Joyland, I think what was most surprising was that how from Cannes to Delhi, and then to the US, not only the South Asian audience, but a global audience started talking about our cinema, and that is the kind of conversation I feel would somehow at least be visible enough or weigh as guilt on the local audiences to now own it and talk about it, that is also like such a so ironical that a film that gets so many laurels and recognition all over the world and is not accessible to people here, so even that becomes a conversation point. But I'll be honest, like around Zindagi Tamasha, for example, so much was written about the controversy of the film that I got bored with it. I was like, now people do not want to talk about the film. People want to talk about the controversy only. And people would, like from all kinds of publication, from, academic publications to purely journalistic stuff. And people will only want to talk about, the TLP and the controversy around the film. And I was like, that is sure some conversation. But again, I don't know if art should be just, dipped so deep into such deep conversations which are not connected to that film or that narrative even, So sometimes the conversations are also not the right kind of conversations and they take center stage. So I hope that, identity-wise, whenever we are talking about stuff, we in this part of the world, in South Asia, I think are too aware. We, as artists, most of the people I know, they risk it in a very calculated way. There's some amazing stuff that comes out of India, which is really revolutionary and eye-opening. But at the same time, I do feel that, yes, there is restraint, there is awareness of censors, and not just censors in terms of official stuff, but, like sensibility-wise. People are putting in, I would say, delicacy and finesse into their stuff. But I would like to also believe that, some conversations around it are either too effervescent sometimes, very social media, a bunch of tweets and the thing is gone, or just, like some short-lived virality to it. But conversation in terms of how this needs to be built on in a constructive way, say where Joyland leaves something, how about somebody picks it up if one were to really build on the narrative of identity? I don't know if it is happening in that kind of a constructed or an aware manner,
So I was going to ask, sorry, Lubnaji is going to, I was going to ask Lubnaji to go next.
Lubnaji's on mute, I think.
You're on mute, Ji.
The conversation that began in Pakistan after Joyland, it was top trend on Twitter. It was being talked on channels. The whole conversation was about the film, but it also made the transgender community come into focus, which is good and bad in both ways.
Right.
Our society is very, very sensitive about the LGBTIQA community anyway, and we've seen a lot of violence against the community. We've seen a rise in murders against their people from their community. The thing is that at that time we had the transgender protection bill as well. So Joyland came at a very, 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 very important time. Did you receive any threats or did you get negative feedback? Did that make you think, because I met a lot of transgender, not a lot, but I met a few transgender people, women and men as well. And they were a bit, they were very happy that the film was there, but they're like, why are we being attacked? Why are we coming into the center stage? So there's a lot of things going on there. So it was a good thing and a bad thing. So how was it for you?
So Lubna, that's what I was sort of hinting at, say, without going into too many details, that yes, the toll is really heavy sometimes, and also, with this whole social media wildfire phenomenon, you can't even filter out what kind of threats are real and what kind of threats can actually translate into real, danger for you, And that had happened with us around Zindagi Tamasha. It got really out of hand, all the way from, say, this political party sort of, announcing rallies and strikes all over the country, to plastering my face in mosques and, things like that happened. And then, online trends saying, hang Sarmad Khoosat and things like that, So, but also one was not sure that if it was just like this cyberspace kind of harassment, or if it would translate into something real. And I would not go into too many details, but it did translate into things that were very real, very palpable, very in your face, like say, for example, the banning letter, when that was released on Twitter by the information ministry, they didn't bother, like covering up the address and phone number, right? And that letter was everywhere on the internet. Now, I don't know what can anyone do with that knowledge, but so that kind of weird irresponsibility, and then the fear, and what's real, what's not real, it was extremely jolting and damaging, and in both the cases around Joyland and Zindagi Tamasha. Now, if I were to even, I mean, it doesn't take you more than 2 brain cells to even figure out. I mean, for somebody like me, who perhaps it has just 3, that I know exactly the timelines, what was happening, in the January of 2020, what was happening on the political front. How was I thrown as a little lollipop to who to pacify them, and then the film was completely relevant for them, and then it became irrelevant. Likewise, the whole transgender bill, for example, they completely used Joyland. They piggybacked on Joyland without having seen the film, and it was also around and that's what I was saying, that some of the conversations, when you think that they're happening, people are talking about it, they can get really dangerous. Yes, the trans community in Pakistan is really, really vulnerable. We were very scared for our caste and people, because you don't know, there are all sorts of weird things that you keep hearing about. So yeah, I mean, but I would only like to sort of conclude it on the note that the social media and the internet world does make it look way more scary than it actually is. And on ground, I don't know if most of these conversations in that virtual space, excuse me, it translates into actual effective, constructive policy making or betterment for, say, as Malinda said, the minorities or people who are just, vulnerable. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I'm so sorry. Can I just quickly go fetch some water for myself? I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yes, don't worry. So you know what? We're going to come back with Sarmad, and he's going to. I can actually time him to see whether he's come back in 30 seconds. Well, less than 30 seconds then. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to do something. I think we've talked about a lot of things, and I think we've covered a larger part than the larger, difficult, heavyweight questions. And I would like to do, taking off for what to do, like a coffee with Karan rapid fire round. Okay. So I mean, I think we should sort of lighten it up in some ways. So if I can ask you, you've talked about being on YouTube, putting out stuff on YouTube right now. You've talked about the dangers, of course, of social media, but there is a quick question on how you see things like streaming platforms actually release and give you the freedom to do things like this. I mean, like I was telling you, I was watching Gunha, which is such a cracker of a series. And what is it? So how do you see that emerging?
Liberating, extremely liberating, and I think empowering. That this whole middleman business going away. You can directly distribute your stuff, and of course there are limitations to it. There are all sorts of other constraints that come into play. I mean, for example, when Zindagi Tamasha did not release, everybody would just say, "Oh, why don't you put it on Netflix? Oh, Amazon." And then I would get a little riled up sometimes. I was like, it's not as easy as that. Whatever one would like to believe, the politics are real. And I would not go into micro details again. But all acquisitions for Netflix from Pakistan are routed through India. And trust me, it's not an easy route. it's not an easy route. Our regional office for Netflix for this region is in
Yeah,
India,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
and of course India is producing so much of its own stuff, you know, so it's common sense also, you know, what will be my number in the queue, right? And also with this genre of cinema, with this category of cinema, even platforms like Netflix are not known for, say, art housey stuff. They usually put really mainstream stuff. So for a quarter or a season, they would only pick a handful from all over the globe, you know. So again, I'll make an honest admission here. I pitched Zindagi Tamasha twice via aggregators in India to Amazon and to Netflix, but we were not entertained and politely refused, you know. So as much as one would like to believe that these are again very accessible, you know, platforms, but honestly speaking, a part of me would not like to just be naive about it. If you look at India, even, you know, so if Karan Johar production house, or if like, you know, Shahrukh production house are making most of the stuff, you know, so clearly it's not a space for indie films, you know, it's not a space for, and they would make one, I would say you would put in a bit of token stuff, you know, one thing comes out, like I love Delhi Crime, for example. I think Delhi Crime is
Very
amazing.
good. Yeah.
Amazing. And some other stuff too, you know, there's some interesting stuff. But even, you know, at that too, they're doing mainstream masala stuff for these platforms. So I fear that these platforms would also then, you know, just become subscribers and numbers and hits and likes, and, you know, so that was maybe, you know, we need a more, you know, a bigger variety. For example, we know that an HBO Max does a certain kind of, you know, production of shows. So maybe regionally we need more of these. We were very encouraged and we felt very supported by Z5, to be honest.
Yeah, that's, I was going to
because-
ask you.
Yeah. We were very supported by it, and we thought, oh, we do not have a platform which has that kind of reach, you know. And they were directly like producing stuff here, of course, through really precarious channels, because, you know, this whole idea of Indo-Pakistan thing is extremely tricky, you know. So, but then, you know, lo and behold, it was banned here or blocked here, you know. I had a subscription for a year. I swiped my local bank card and it doesn't work anymore. So just that I feel, but YouTube, for example, is extremely liberating. Of course, you cannot put things which are really high stakes type, which are, you know, big money. And that's not the platform for it. But I would like to hope that eventually this whole idea of, you know, just say bigness or the size of the storytelling is not the only thing that can sell, you know. Be it a digital platform, which definitely gives you a bigger access to a global audience. And overall, you know, cinema culture is definitely not the same as it used to be, say, a decade or a few decades ago, you know. People are moving towards digital. But that space is also like, you know, finding its own, I would say. Netflix has...
Maybe we need a Sapan for South Asian films.
Yes.
I think that's what we're going to vote for, Beena. That before I go, if you ever had, if you have a dream project, okay, where you can get around this thing, what is it going to be, and who is going to be the star? I can tell you who I would want, but you go ahead and tell me who you could.
I don't know about the dream project really, because there are way too many, you know, from remakes of films to you know, biopics on some great people that I've read about. But I certainly know that before I die, I need to do a film with Taboo.
I'm sure she'll be very excited.
My life would be such a failure if I do not do a film or something. I don't know, a TV play or a series or something, you know, or maybe just shake hands with her. I mean, I would settle for that, but. You know.
So we're hoping that she's going to be hoping that this gets to her, and that we make this happen. And I will now. Don't worry, we'll have our own list, okay, of people who we would want across. Okay. So I think now we're going to hand over to Arvinderji.
Well, Mandira, Lobna, Malinda. I don't have words, honestly. It's such a, you know, eye-catchy, sparkling. I don't have words. You know, let this be the beginning for the Sapan. That yes, The whole of the South Asia is in one bucket, and we can share what we really want to share. Thank you so very much, Mandira, and of course, our most loving Sarmad Khoosat for this beautiful conversation. Mandira, Malinda, Lubna, you're just awesome. It's time to conclude the program, and I would love to conclude with a poem which I wrote for the Sapan, but I believe that the energies the Sarmad is having, and he's spreading through his films and directions. Probably this is going to be the anthem for all of us for that, for the peace building bridge. Ke diwaro tum bhi aazma lo. दीवारों तुम भी आजमा लो अब हौसले मेरे मैंने रास्तों को अपने कदमों की निशानी दी है परवाज दुश्वार और मुश्किल ही सही मगर कैद बुलबुलों को उड़ने की रवानी दी है और परचमे आजादी ओ हक लहराएगा तुम देखना मैंने आती सदियों के लिए एक नई कहानी दी है और रोशन रहेगा ये अंजुमन ये गुलिस्तां अपना आफताबे दुनिया ने अब चमक नुरानी दी है कि रोशन रहेगा ये अंजुमन ये गुलिस्तां अपना आफताबे दुनिया ने अब चमक नुरानी दी है. So this is my innermost feeling. And before we close, I would request again everybody, whosoever is watching, whosoever is listening to this program, that Sapan is doing a really a wonderful job for all of us. So let's all pledge and donate for this common cause. And the barcode is there. I would request Ekta to please show that barcode again so that we can get some more donations on this. A big and huge thanks to everyone who made this event possible, and all of you watching. Besides those who saw us on the screen today, there are many volunteers. Without this not have been possible. It wasn't possible to have so many people on the studio of the StreamYard, but thanks to Ekta for meticulously organizing it. Thanks to Sarita. Wow. Thanks to Sarah. Without, I think probably it would not have been possible. And thanks to our brigade general, none other than Bina Server. Thank you so very much, Bina. Thank you, Sarmad. I think probably I have
Can I
been
just
on the verge.
say very
Yeah,
quickly?
please. Yeah,
Just very quickly, I just want to remind everyone that donations of $50 will get you a link to watch Zindagi Tamasha, which I happened to see at its US premiere in a couple of years ago. And it's an amazing film, and it's too sad that it hasn't been watched enough in Pakistan and elsewhere. And the other thing is that if you donate $100 or more, you get a chance to see Zindagi Tamasha and a exclusive Zoom call with Sarmad, a private call next Sunday at the same time. Thank you.
You donate 1,000 and we'll make a personal meeting with personal hug with Sarmad.
Yes.
I'm sending up.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Rab Rakha, and goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Love you all from India.